Number 1 is asking us to classify each function as linear, linear absolute value, quadratic, or exponential. So we can do that a couple of ways. One way is just to remember what the functions look like when we're looking at a rule. Remember, linear functions always look something like y equals mx plus b, right? They just have an x, but not raised to anything. Now, linear absolute value always has this absolute value of x in it, and they might have a number plus another number, right? Y equal to that. But the point is you're always going to see this absolute value of x in the absolute value function. Quadratic functions always have an x squared in them, and this x squared is the highest exponent. You might see other things added on or multiplied, but it always has that x squared. And then an exponential function is always going to look like maybe a number a times another number to an x power. And you might even have it added to another number. Okay, but the point is you're always going to have a number to the x power. So just looking at this, here we can see this has got an x squared, so this is going to be quadratic. This has got an x for an exponent, so this is going to be exponential. This has just got that plain old number times x, so we should expect this to be linear. Now this one doesn't really fit into any of the categories. Now you may remember when you just have y equal to a number, it's going to give you a horizontal line. But if you don't remember that, or you don't like this method that we're using where you're remembering the rule, the other thing you can do is you can go to your y equals key and graph each of these, right? So let's start backwards. Let's graph y equal to 8, okay? And in this case, we're going to remember anytime you want to graph, you want to check your window and make sure you've got a good window. And if you don't have a word problem, then just choosing x minimum of -10, x max of +10, y minimum of -10, and y maximum of +10, that's just a good standard window to use. And then you can hit graph, and look, just as I said, it was a horizontal line. Now you can look at the shape and just know, oh, that's linear. Let's graph this right here. -4, and we want it to be to the x power, so you press this button to the, and then x. So -4 to the x. And again, our window, we just want to use that standard window. So we're going to graph this. And you can see this is a curve, but it's not that U shape. Quadratics are always U shape. It's clearly not linear because it's got a curve. It's exponential. Exponentials are always these kind of either J shapes or upside down J shapes. So this is an upside down J shape. So that's how we know this was exponential. Now we're going to graph y equals 3x squared. Okay, so notice I pressed this x squared button right there. So my window is still a standard window, so I graph it. And here's that standard quadratic shape. The U shape is always quadratic. Okay, so, and then I graph the y equals -7x. And here, when I graph it, you can see it's just a straight line. So on the test, you're going to have to explain why you think these things. And so you either need to be able to explain it in terms of, oh, this is quadratic because it's got an x squared term, or this is quadratic because when I graph it, it makes a U shape. This is linear because it's a horizontal line when I graph it. This is exponential, and you can either say because it's got x as an exponent, or you can say because when I graph it, it makes that J shape or the upside down J shape, or when I graph it, it looks like this. This one's linear because it fits that y equals mx plus b. Or you can say because when I graph it, it looks like this. It's a line. But you're going to have to be able to explain yourselves.